The Manusmriti is one of the most famous and highly contested texts in Hindu history, but almost everything people assume about its historical authority is actually a myth. Here are 4 facts that explain the massive gap between its ancient reality and its modern reputation. First up, ancient Hindu kings rarely, if ever, enforced the Manusmriti as actual law. Instead of governing daily life, it was a theoretical thought experiment, written by the Brahmin priestly class to describe how society ought to be run. Second, the manuscript is full of wild internal contradictions, especially regarding women. Because it was stitched together over centuries, it demands absolute female submission in some chapters, while simultaneously granting women specific rights to dissolve marriages and inherit property elsewhere. Third, the text's immense legal power is actually a British invention. In 1794, colonial official William Jones translated the text, mistakenly believing Hindus needed a definitive legal code. This administrative error forced centuries of flexible local Indian customs into a rigid Brahmin-centric colonial law. Finally, because the text explicitly codified the subjugation of the Shudra working class, it sparked massive modern backlash, culminating in 1927 when B.R. Ambedkar publicly burned copies of the manuscript. Ultimately, its power as a rigid system of oppression doesn't reflect ancient Indian reality. It's a modern consequence of British colonial administration.
The Manusmriti is ancient India's most fiercely debated text, condemned today as an absolute law. But archaeological evidence reveals a paradox. Its historical reality is completely different from its modern reputation. To separate myth from reality, let's examine 4 facts. First, the text prescribes an intensely rigid social hierarchy. Framed around Dharma, meaning duties and conduct, it dictates that women must never be independent and enforces lifelong servitude for the Shudra working class. Second, it is full of massive internal contradictions. While one chapter removes women's independence, another grants them property rights and legal divorce. This proves it was heavily altered and patched together by multiple authors over centuries. Third, ancient Indian kings didn't actually enforce it. There is no historical evidence that any state applied it as an active legal code. It was merely a theoretical ideal written by the priestly class. Finally, it only became universal law in 1794. The British East India Company translated a specific manuscript to govern non-Muslims and mistakenly forced this contradictory theoretical text into rigid colonial law. The oppressive legal framework we associate with the Manusmriti today was never the law of ancient India. It only became the absolute law of the land when British colonial administrators forcefully resurrected it.